The first one is drink liquor to warm up in cold weather. Now let's break this one down. If only it was that easy to warm up in winter, right? So alcohol doesn't really warm you up. It doesn't boost circulation. What it does is that it relaxes the superficial small vessels on the surface of your skin, which brings up blood from deeper within your body. Now, when that happens, it feels warmer because the vessels there have opened up wider. All this warm blood from deep within is being brought up to the surface. So you feel that flush and you feel warmer. But that doesn't mean that you actually are warmer. In fact, alcohol can actually cool you down because bringing all this blood up to the surface of the skin where it's cold can cool you down. So it can have an opposite effect. Next one is hormone-free meats are healthier. Now you may have, gone shopping in supermarkets and whatnot, and you have these labels going like hormone-free meats. But this is super misleading because there's no such thing as a hormone-free meat. All it means is that they didn't feed the animal extra hormones. But as an animal, even if you don't feed them hormones, the animal will still have animal hormones, just naturally. It's a part of being alive. There are also antibiotic-free products, and that's also misleading because it doesn't matter whether or not you use antibiotics in your farm animals because there's all sorts of regulations regarding this meat and it shouldn't be having antibiotics anyway. So what they do is that they have all these sort of labels and they use it as an excuse to charge you a little bit more, going like antibiotic-free meats or hormone-free meats, when according to regulations they shouldn't have it to begin with. So all of these things, it's very, very misleading. When you look at all of these products, what you have to do is that you have to look at your diet as a whole. So it's okay to have a little bit of animal products, but it's less healthy if the vast chunk of your diet is all animal products. But then on the flip side, you have people who go, hey, you should eat more meat because vegetables have pesticides. So I've had people say, like, oh, what, do I really need to eat all of these plant foods? Because they worry that a lot of these plant foods, all of these crops, they have pesticides sprayed on them. So they have this feeling of, oh, if I'm going to eat a lot of these leafy greens, then doesn't that mean I'm also eating in a lot of pesticides? And they have this impression that somehow the things the animal eats is cleaner than what the humans eat, or the animals will eat these crops that contain pesticides and then the animals will sort of get rid of the pesticides for you. It doesn't really work that way. When you take in pesticides, or when these animals take in pesticides, what happens is that they concentrate it within their bodies. So the more they eat, the more it concentrates. It's not just the more they eat, it just magically disappears. Meat and other animal products can contain pesticides, and these pesticides will accumulate in the body over time. Cows, pigs, chickens, sheep, other livestock, they're all directly exposed to pesticides in an effort to curb pest infestations in a crowded environment. Like, do you really have this impression that farms are all of these animals wandering around on an open field? It doesn't really work like that. Most of the time, they're in very crowded conditions. So they're also exposed to crop pesticides through their feed. And the limits for animal feed is more than 100 times that which is allowed in foods consumed by humans. So the amount of pesticides found in animal products can be much, much higher than those you find in plant crops. So animal proteins like meat can contain more pesticides than plants grown for human consumption in the supermarket. Not to mention, pesticides can accumulate in the body of the animal, especially in the liver, the kidney, the organs, basically, and fat. So the next time you're eating braised meat, don't eat the fatty portion. I know, it's the best part of it. But if you're going to eat it, just exercise a little bit of self-control and don't eat the fatty portions. Next up is all skincare products with preservatives are bad. Now, a lot of people have this impression that chemicals or preservatives are something that is inherently bad when it's not. Skincare products require preservatives in order to control bacterial contamination. Now, when it comes to these skincare products, for a lot of them, it comes in a jar, it comes in a big bottle. You use it over a long period of time. So it's not like you open it and then you use it all at once. Since it has to last over a period of time, this means that it needs to be resistant to bacterial contamination. And the products will be exposed to bacteria. There's bacteria everywhere, on your fingers or on any of the scoops that you use to scoop up your lotion, lipsticks, any brushes, etc. Even if you just open it up to the air, it's going to be exposed to bacteria. So, there's been studies that show that up to 90% of skincare products that have been used will contain bacteria like Staphylococcus aureus or other ones that can cause a lot of skin problems. Now, these contaminated products are then, rubbed into your skin, used around your mouth, used around your eyes, and it can cause health problems ranging from just really simple things like pimples to more serious things like triggering inflammatory conditions like eczema, dermatitis, folliculitis. So as soon as these things are exposed to bacteria, as soon as you open it, it needs these preservatives to control this bacterial growth, to make sure that it's not just a free-for-all for all of your bacteria. Because a lot of these cosmetics, a lot of these skincare products, they contain a lot of things as well that are supposed to be good for your skin, which means that, it contains a lot of things that bacteria also like. So there's a couple of things that you can do to help your skincare products, resist this bacteria. Is number one, having a safe level of preservatives in it, and number two, if you want to, you can keep it in the fridge. Now, this won't kill any bacteria. It's not going to stop bacteria from growing, but it does slow it down. So when it comes to all of these skincare products, since you're going to be using it for a period of time, since you're going to be rubbing it into places like your face, around your mouth, around your eyes, you want to make sure that you're getting them from reputable companies. Fasting can help the body cleanse and detoxify itself. Now, there's a lot of things going on about fasting. Number one is a lot of things about how intermittent fasting can help you lose weight, or how it can help you detoxify your body, or do all sorts of things. And fasting in general has been gaining more and more and more popularity. Now, there's a little bit of truth in that intermittent fasting can help you lose weight, because after all, if you're not eating anything, of course you're going to lose weight. However, is it an effective way to lose weight? Not necessarily. Studies have shown that, fasting will work for fat mice. However, studies in humans don't show that it's more effective than other diets, because a lot of people, once they fast for a period of time, they rebound the other way. So they gorge themselves when they can. Plus, a lot of people find it really, really difficult to fast. So when it comes to this sort of diets, yes, it may work in the short term, but a lot of people will find it very, very difficult to stick to this sort of diet in the long term. So while you may lose some weight simply because you're not eating anything, it may not work for long-term weight loss unless you also change the types of food that you eat, and you also are really, really strict about it. And it won't necessarily change your other markers of health like blood pressure or cholesterol levels, because again, that really comes down to the type of food that you're eating and whether or not you're fasting. For example, if you fast a period of time and then you eat a lot of fast food afterwards, that's not really good for your health, right? So if you're going to do this sort of diet, then it should be you're eating healthy foods when you are eating. Right, so there's nothing inherently wrong about this sort of fasting diets, but it's not a miracle cure. A mistake people make with all of these sort of diets is that they don't change the foods that they eat. they'll fast and then they go off and they eat, really filling, healthy, feel-good foods. So if you're gonna do it right. Eat healthy foods with the diet. Another mistake people make is that they attribute all sorts of other benefits to fasting, like how it's going to help your body cleanse or detoxify itself. Fasting isn't going to help your body do that. Okay, your body has organs already to cleanse and detoxify itself. It's not something that your body needs help with. It is a function that is inherent to your body. Your body is already very, very good at cleansing and detoxifying itself. It is the job of the liver, of your kidneys to help you do that. So all you really need to do is just drink more water. And that's pretty much it. All right, so as long as you're drinking enough water, your body is going to keep on cleansing and keep on detoxifying itself. So you don't have to rely on any sort of detoxifying diets or anything out there. It's really just a way to make money off you. If you see products out there that go, oh, it's going to detoxify your body, or it's going to cleanse your body, sort of thing. You don't need that. All you need to do is drink more water, and that's pretty much it. In fact, denying yourself these nutrients can actually work against you. Fasting deprives your body of nutrients, of raw materials that you need to help keep your body functioning, to help your body make antibodies, enzymes, to help keep your immune system working. So eating healthy will keep your immune system strong. Eating healthy will help support the organs in you that are going to cleanse and detoxify your body. So you don't need something special to help you do all of that. All you really need to do is take care of the organs that you have within you and just drink a little bit more water and you'll be fine. Next one is eating red yeast rice can lower blood pressure. For those of you who don't know, red yeast rice refers to a traditional Chinese medicine product. Now, there's a lot of people that say that it can reduce blood cholesterol levels or it can help reduce blood pressure. However, the composition of these products can vary, and it can contain harmful ingredients that can result in adverse effects. Now, how they make this is that they take cooked rice, mix it with a mold, and then they ferment it. Now, this will turn the rice sort of reddish purplish because the mold will just give off some pigments as it's fermenting. So the composition of red yeast rice varies depending on what sort of strains of mold you're using and how you're culturing it. Not only may some products contain very little or none of those substance, which is thought to give red yeast rice its ability to help out with all of these blood markers, but it can also contain harmful contaminants, such as a substance which may damage the kidneys. There was a 2020 Dutch study that came to the conclusion that people should view this as having significant safety concerns because a lot of exposure to the substance that is supposed to give you health benefits can actually lead to a lot of negative adverse effects. So a 2019 review found that red yeast rice can't actually lower or maintain your cholesterol levels or your blood pressure with, it doesn't really have that sort of effect that people are claiming. And the US FDA has warned against using these products because people can have severe muscle problems leading to kidney problems. And a lot of these things can also interfere with medications like antidepressants, some antibiotics, some of the medications that are used to treat fungal or HIV infections, or other cholesterol lowering medications. So if you take this stuff and it's messing with your cholesterol lowering medications, it can actually have the opposite sort of effect that you're looking for. So please, when it comes to these things, we really have to educate ourselves and exercise a little bit of caution. Store your baby's cord blood because cord blood can cure leukemia. Now, the thing with a lot of these myths is that there's always a little grain of truth in them. Yes, stem cell transplants from these cord bloods have been used to cure both children and adults with leukemia. Some studies show that compared to bone marrow transplants for treating leukemia, those who received cord blood transplants tended to live longer and were actually less likely to relapse. So it's a really great choice for treating leukemia. However, children with leukemia or other blood cancers or disorders, they cannot receive their own cord blood. They have to get it from a donor. So that's because when children or adolescents, they develop leukemia or other of these blood problems, it's usually because they're born with a genetic defect that has triggered the leukemia, which means that their cord blood will have the same defect. So it's not safe to give them a transplant with their own cord blood. They have to get it from somebody else. So if you're storing your baby's cord blood in the hopes of using it to cure their own leukemia or their own blood cancers, then you're out of luck. So if you're going to keep your baby's cord blood, it's really better to consider donating it to a public cord blood bank rather than spend huge amounts of money trying to store it for yourself when you won't be able to use it to treat your own child's blood cancers. This way, your baby's cord blood can get some use and go on to save someone else's life. Women shouldn't do weight training because it will make their arms and thighs look bulky. Now, exercise is good, but you need to support your body while you're doing it. So as a lot of men will be happy to hear, the heavier the weights you can lift, the stronger your body becomes. The stronger you become, usually the larger your muscles will look. So with weight training, a lot of men will gain muscle mass naturally. It's not an overnight process, but with dedication and hard work, it can be done. But you just look at the men around you, women, and you see them, they work so hard at the gym. They lift super heavy weights. They have a strict diet. They're taking in protein all the time, just trying to bulk up their muscles, right? They try so hard. And then you have to remember that men have 7 to 10 times more testosterone than women have. They're working this hard to get muscle mass, okay? So when it comes to us women, unless you're working out like an Olympic athlete, you're not going to get bulky muscles, okay? It's just not going to happen. If you just, work out like a normal average person in the gym, you do some weight training, you are not going to just accidentally get bulky muscles. It's not something that happens. If you do want bulky muscles, then you're going to go through that, that intense training regimen. You're going to have that sort of diet, which includes a lot of protein. It's not something that just happens. And if you're doing this sort of routine, if you're working out this hard, then you know exactly what you're doing, right? So what will make everyone look bulky is having a lot of fat. So that's because fat will just sit on top of muscles. It can gather in the muscles and you'll just lose that sort of definition. You'll just look sort of just round and doughy everywhere. So what we really need to do is that we still need to go to the gym. You still want to do some, weight training, because weight training is not only good for your muscles, it's also really good for your bones. It can encourage your bones to grow stronger. So the key to this, if you want a nice toned body, is to look at your diet as well. You want to have a diet that supports your body building up these muscles. And you want to have a healthy diet that will help you cut down on the fat that's sitting on top of your muscles as well. And you also still want to work out at the gym. That way, once you melt that fat away, you will have hard work. Your hard work will be able to shine through. So you'll feel healthier, you'll be healthier, and you will look healthier. Spicy food harms the stomach. Spicy food contains a compound called capsaicin. Now, capsaicin is the compound in chilies, peppers, which gives it that burn, but it's also an irritant. Now, it will bind to and activate a lot of receptors throughout your body. Now, these receptors are in your mouth, but they're also scattered throughout your GI tract, including your intestine. So that's why when you eat a lot of spicy food, not only does your mouth burn, but sometimes, your intestines will react as well. They'll cramp up. You'll feel super uncomfortable. Things will move faster through the intestine, which means that they will reach the end quicker, and you may need to visit the toilet more often and more frequently than you normally would have. Now, you also have these receptors down there, which means that whatever capsaicin is not absorbed by your body, you're going to feel coming out. Now, while all of this is super unpleasant to feel, it's not actually harmful. It doesn't harm your stomach at all. I know, it feels like it, but it's not harmful. So what a lot of people think as well is that it can cause peptic ulcers, or it might, burn holes in your stomach, but it doesn't do that. However, for people who already have peptic ulcers, it can aggravate this ulcer because, like I mentioned before, the substance is a type of irritant. So it can irritate existing ulcers, but it's not going to cause ulcers. So for spicy food lovers out there, this is good news. Quickly apply sesame oil, egg whites, or toothpaste to a fresh burn. Now, while toothpaste contains refreshing ingredients and can feel really nice and cool in your mouth, it's not going to help your skin, especially not if you have burns. A lot of these other home remedies, like butter, oils, egg whites, even mud, none of these are going to help your burn. A lot of people think that, peppermint or menthol as well, because it feels so cooling that it will actually be cooling. That's not the case there. It just activates the nerves there to give you that cooling feel, but it doesn't actually cool you. It doesn't actually take away any of the heat. Now, the main idea of a burn treatment in the initial stages is to take away the heat, because that is what is causing the injury in the first place. Things like butter, oil, mud, egg whites, etc., all they do is that they can actually trap the heat there, which will make the injury worse. Some people will think that egg whites, it can sort of protect the wound, have a little bit of a film, but that's not the case either. Eggs or butter, oil, all these things, it can contain bacteria, which can cause an infection in an open wound, which is what a burn is. Burns are super prone to infections because you have damaged your skin. So all of this defense that your skin had against infections is gone now. So what you really do need to do for a burn is, number one, don't put any of these things on your burn. You want to cool the burn with a cold compress, running it under cold water, etc. You want to remove the heat. Once the burn has cooled off, then you can apply things like antibacterial ointments or petroleum jelly to help you protect the burn and to make it feel a little bit better. And then you want to cover it with a non-stick bandage. Non-stick. Please learn from my mistake. All right, and use a non-stick bandage. That way, when you take it off, you're not going to peel off things that you're going to regret peeling off. All right, so just cool it off and then cover it with a non-stick bandage. In TV dramas, mix drops of blood to determine blood relations. If the drops of blood mix, then the persons are related. If they do not mix, then the persons are not related. Now, it's always, this sort of bit in TV dramas that will just add to the dramas. Now, mixing studies, they can determine blood type compatibility. So let's make it really simple and look at the ABO classification of blood types. Person A has a certain blood type. Person B has the same blood type as person A. If they do have the same one, then their drops of blood will mix with no reactions. But if person B has a different blood type, then when you mix their blood, it's going to have a reaction. But that's a really bad way of determining family relationships because children can have a different blood type than their parents, and they're still related. For example, mom can have blood type A, dad can have blood type B, and their kid can have blood type O. So all three people, they have different blood types. But if you did this test, then you might see drops of blood reacting with each other. And if you just follow this advice, then you will come to the conclusion that they're not related, even though they are. So these mixing studies, maybe back then in ancient times, this was the best they had. But now we have better tests and we know better. We know now that, these sort of studies can help you determine compatibility of blood types, but it really has nothing much to do with how related people are.